In the death zone, above 8,000 meters, the margins between survival and disaster are razor thin. Anatoli Boukreev understood this better than anyone. On May 10, 1996, a brutal storm engulfed Mount Everest. Temperatures plunged to 60 below. 100 miles per hour winds turned the summit ridge into a frozen hell. Elite climbers retreated to their tents, certain that anyone caught outside was already dead. But Boukreev stepped out into the darkness. He would save 3 lives that night. 1 year later, on another mountain, his legendary skill wouldn't be enough, because even the most prepared climbers can find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. 1958, a small town in Russia's Ural Mountains. A 12-year-old boy joined a school geology group. While other children played in the streets, young Anatoli Boukreev was learning to read the language of rocks, setting up camp in the shadow of modest peaks that would shape his destiny. By the time he graduated with a physics degree in 1979, his path was set. In Kazakhstan, Boukreev transformed into something more than a climber. He became an experiment in human potential. In Kazakhstan's elite training centers, climbers became human experiments in survival. They studied weather patterns like meteorologists, avalanche dynamics like physicists, and high-altitude physiology like doctors. By his mid-20s, Boukreev had earned mountaineering's most prestigious Soviet honor, the title of Snow Leopard, awarded only to those who could climb the 4 highest peaks in the USSR. But it was how he climbed that set him apart. What truly defined the Soviet system was its radical approach to oxygen. While Western climbers increasingly relied on supplemental oxygen above 26,000 feet, Soviet climbers trained their bodies to function without it. This philosophy would be tested on Kanchenjunga in 1989, where even the strongest climbers struggled when oxygen systems failed. For Boukreev, it was a lesson he'd never forget. Better to train your body to survive without oxygen than risk depending on a system that could fail when you need it most. This philosophy would shape Boukreev's entire approach to high-altitude climbing. The Soviet system wasn't just about technique, it was about understanding the mountain itself. He saw mountains not as obstacles to be conquered, but as teachers demanding absolute respect and preparation. As the Soviet Union crumbled in 1989, elite athletes like Boukreev faced a choice: adapt or fade away. The new world of commercial mountaineering called, where wealthy clients paid guides to lead them up the world's highest peaks. He emerged onto the international climbing scene like a force of nature. In 1994, he achieved what many considered impossible, summiting 3 8,000-meter peaks in just 66 days. 1996, when Scott Fisher invited Boukreev to join his Everest team, it seemed like the perfect partnership, but their methods couldn't have been more different. On May 10th, nature would put both philosophies to the test. The temperature plunged to 60 below. Winds screamed past 100 miles per hour. Visibility dropped to 0. One by one, oxygen systems failed. Experienced guides became helpless. Climbers began to die. While others huddled in their tents, Boukreev did the impossible. He ventured out multiple times into conditions that should have killed anyone who tried. His controversial philosophy had just saved 3 lives. The storm that proved Boukreev's worth as a climber thrust him into a different kind of battle. One fought not on mountain faces, but in the pages of magazines and best-selling books. For a man who preferred to let his climbing do the talking, the controversy cut deeper than any winter wind. While he received medals for his rescues, John Krakauer's best-selling account, Into Thin Air, painted a different picture. The debate raged. Was he a hero or reckless? For a man who had dedicated his life to the mountains, having his judgment questioned was almost unbearable. Working with writer Weston DeVault, Boukreev documented his side in The Climb. Every decision, every moment of that night on Everest had to be explained, justified, laid bare for the world that didn't understand his philosophy. But even as a controversy raged in print, the mountains were calling him back. Each new ascent seemed to carry a message: let my actions speak for themselves. By December 1997, Boukreev was planning what many considered impossible: a winter ascent of Annapurna's south face. Among the world's 8,000-meter peaks, Annapurna holds a special kind of infamy. While Everest claims one life for every 36 successful summits, Annapurna's ratio is one death for every 3 climbers who reach the top. It's the most lethal mountain of them all. The south face that Boukreev aimed to climb was its most fearsome aspect. Rising 3,000 meters straight up, crowned with massive seracs that could collapse without warning. To attempt this in winter wasn't just ambitious, it was nearly unthinkable. Winds that exceeded 200 miles per hour, temperatures below minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, storms that last for weeks. Snow accumulates rapidly, making every step a gamble with avalanches. Joining Anatoli was Dmitry Sobolev and Simon Morrow. On December 7th, they established base camp. For weeks, they battled deep snow and brutal conditions. On Christmas Day, 1997, while the world celebrated in warmth and comfort, the team fought their way up the face. The temperature had plunged below minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, where flesh freezes in seconds. The wind slammed into the face at over 100 miles an hour, each gust threatening to tear them from their precarious position. By 3:15 p.m., they reached 5,900 meters. Then came their last radio transmission. Weather deteriorating. Continuing up. What happened was later told by the only survivor, Simon Morrow. He was leading the climb when it happened. Simon had just finished filming his 2 friends below, taking a moment to put his camera away to get his gloves back on. He felt something change. In his words, he realized the moment of death was silently approaching. Above them loomed a massive serac, a detached pillar of glacial ice, the size of a 5-story building. Morrow could only shout a warning to his friends below. He watched as Boukreev and Sobolev tried to move laterally, desperately seeking escape from what was coming. Then the serac broke free. The team's ropes was later found sheared clean, their gear scattered across hundreds of meters. The serac had triggered a Class 4 avalanche, powerful enough to destroy 10 acres of forest. At that elevation, with those winds, they would have had perhaps 2 seconds of warning. Morrow survived, half buried in snow at 5,500 meters. For 15 minutes, he called out to his friends. No one answered. His hands were stripped to the bone from gripping the rope during his fall, one eye blinded, but he was alive. In the end, the mountain Boukreev had respected for so long showed no mercy. The same uncompromising conditions that had drawn him to climbing would claim his life at age 39. Today, hundreds of guided clients form conga lines to Everest's summit, stepping over discarded oxygen tanks and following endless fixed ropes. Where Boukreev once demanded self-reliance, you can now buy your way to the top without even having touched an ice axe. His record speaks for itself: 21 successful ascents above 8,000 meters, multiple speed records, 3 lives saved on Everest in conditions that would have killed most climbers. But in his private diary, Boukreev revealed that numbers and records meant nothing compared to his deeper connection with the mountains. He wrote, "Mountains are not stadiums where I satisfy my ambition for achievement. They are cathedrals where I practice my religion. I go to them as people go to prayer. From their majestic peaks, I see my past, dream the future, and, with unusual acuity, experience the present moment. My vision becomes clearer. My strength is renewed." At the base of Annapurna, where his last climb ended, a memorial stands. On it, his final words remind us that behind the records and rescues was a man who understood something profound about why we climb. "In the mountains I celebrate creation. On every journey to them, I am born anew."